A lot of times, like people go, I have a true desire to be wealthy. Okay, that's awesome. What's got you turned off? Risk. If your highest value is to avoid risk, then you're never going to create wealth, no matter how much you think you desire that. You're basically praying two prayers that are just negate each other. Give me wealth, but don't give me risk. Give me a marriage, but give me self-righteousness. It's like the things cannot exist in the same universe. Which do you value? I can't give you both. I value not exposing myself to risk. Okay, no risk in your life, but no wealth either. And it's this conflict of values that we have to resolve. And do you want to be right or do you want to be rich?
Cody, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here. Welcome to Peak Performance Perspectives, where we help entrepreneurs master health, wealth, and relationships. I have to ask, what does peak performance mean to you?
It's a great question, Mark. And to me, peak performance is the attainment of your full potential, whatever that is. So you could ask the question, how big should a tree grow? As big as it can. Some trees oak trees can be massive. Other trees are little shrubs. So what is peak performance? Peak performance is the attainment of your full potential.
How does one go about realizing what their full potential is?
I think really your full potential is your decision. It's your choice. We are fundamentally limitless creatures. It's like any limitations that we experience are self-imposed, whether that's through intelligent design or through ignorance. But nevertheless, it's the peak that you can grow to is going to be determined on the psychology and philosophy that you carry. And that is something that you are given and you can change. It's whatever you want it to be, really.
I love it. Now, you are a very famous relationship coach and you have a very unique perspective on many things. And I'm so excited to talk to you about a bunch of stuff. But I'm going to start out by first asking a general question that your approach to relationship challenges conventional advice. What inspired you to develop your unique methodology and philosophy?
It's peak performance. It's, again, I encourage everybody who's listening to question everything I'm saying. Don't believe a word that I'm saying. Put it to the test. As Jim Rohn said, be a student, not a follower. And it's ultimately, I'm results driven. I'm not ideologically driven, people go, well, what school of philosophy or psychology do you belong to? I belong to all of them. They've all got some good stuff and they've all got some stuff that's a bit nonsensical as well. Really, it comes down to understanding human nature. What is my nature as a human being and how can I deploy that in a way that is selfishly benevolent? Because I am ultimately a very selfish creature, as are you, as are we all. It's our nature. So the question is not how do we get rid of a nature that we can't? The question is how do we use that nature in a way that benefits ourselves and others simultaneously?
I like it. If we dig into the details, right? So many relationship coaches, so many relationship books preach the idea of putting your partner first. You, on the other hand, have said putting your partner first idea can ruin a relationship. Can you explain how that works?
It's a very little understood concept or a very misunderstood concept, and that is self-sacrifice produces contempt, personal development produces admiration. If I say, hey, Mark, I've sacrificed days of my life to be on your show today, I've sacrificed my time preparing, I've sacrificed other opportunities for you, that produces contempt. It doesn't really produce oh, well done, Cody, I'm really grateful. But if I go, hey, I've spent some time really working on myself, making myself better to make sure that this is beneficial to both of us, that produces admiration and respect. And most people, in fact, are operating under the false assumption that self-sacrifice produces admiration. It doesn't. It produces contempt. And a lot of times the response that we'll get when we say, I've given my life to you, I've given my career to you, I've given up my ambitions for you, and it's good for you. I don't ask you to do that. That is the result that it produces. Self-sacrifice produces contempt in the other person. And if we're going down the traditional relationship route of the key to a successful relationship is self-contempt, all you're going to have is two contemptuous people at the end of it. Versus you understand that personal development produces admiration. It's how about I get better for you and you get better for me. Then when we come together, we're going to have one heck of a good show here, Mark. How about that?
And almost always, like you said, now that I think about it, the only time someone actually brings up, I've sacrificed this for you and that for you, is when things are not going well and you're trying to earn some brownie points.
Absolutely. That's exactly right.
But if I were to play devil's advocate, I would say, but Cody, it's such a warm and ooey gooey feeling that someone sacrificed something that they wanted to do for us. It just makes me feel so special. That's what I watch in movies. That's what I read in the romantic books. Or is that not valuable? What would you say to that?
My question is, who are you really doing it for? Are you actually doing it for yourself because you're going to benefit from that in some way? Or are you doing it because you're truly selfless? I'll give you an answer. One of the things I teach is the heart of the servant. And people get that very wrong. They go, heart of the maid. No, I'm not telling you to go and do the dishes. An example of heart of the servant is my 3-year-old son wanted to go swimming the other day, and it was cold. For me, it was cold and windy outside, and I really didn't want to, but I was like, the heart of the servant, because I just love him, I'm going to take him swimming. So I take him to the swimming pool where it's cold and windy and put him in the water, and I'm thinking I'm just going to stand on the side, and that's not enough for him. I want you to get in the pool with me, Dad. And I'm like, oh goodness. So I get into the pool with him. Ultimately, it's why did I do that? I did that out of a true desire to serve him, out of true and unconditional love. It's not out of some form of self. I'm not sacrificing myself for him. I'm approaching it with the heart of the servant because I have unconditional love for him.
Almost always when someone, quote unquote, sacrifices something for somebody, it starts out that way. It starts out as the heart of the servant. I love you so much. I want to do this for you. I have $20, but I know you need that jacket. I'm just going to give it to you. And at the moment the partner is happy, it's only when things start going wrong that we bring up, and then we turn it into a sacrifice. So isn't it the same thing with just two sides to the same coin? Or is it just the context?
It ultimately comes down to, when it gets to that point, you have a position to defend. And my question to you, Mark, like you give me your outcome. You want to get rich? Okay, let's look at that. You want a great relationship? Let's look at that. You want to be a great parent? Look at that. So, do you want to be rich or do you want to be right? Do you want to be married or do you want to be right? Do you want to be a great parent or do you want to be right? And it's a lot of times, like when that question is honestly posed and answered, I would rather be right than married. I would rather be right than rich. I'm going to hold on to my idea. My ideas are more valuable to me than the outcome that I'm professing that I want. And this really is one of the major stumbling blocks to performance. Is you can be a high performer or you can be right. And at the end of the day, it's if you don't have what you want in your life right now, whether it's relationship satisfaction, whether it's money, whether you name it, business success, it's because there's something you don't know, or there's something you think that you're doing right. And the question really becomes, Cody, I want to be a high performer. Okay, do you really want to be a high performer or do you want to be right? And if you go, I truly want to be a high performer and I'm willing to sacrifice being right for that, it's a lot of the objections that you're throwing out there right now, they just fade away. It doesn't really matter anymore. It's let's focus on being a great husband rather than being right. Let's focus on becoming wealthy rather than being right. And when we do that, the results show up remarkably quickly, Mark, to be honest with you.
So it's almost like this desire to be right is part of the person's identity. And because they like to be right, this identity almost gets in the way of actual progress, whatever area they want to make in.
It's two prayers that negate each other. Like the highest of two values will always win out. It's, do you want to be right? You got two values here, being right or being wealthy, right? Let's just use money because money is easy, it's tangible, it's measurable, it's easy. You have a desire to be wealthy and you have a desire to be right. Which do you want more? Like the higher of those two values will win out. So you've got to decide. You always get your highest values are always met. Always. If you're not getting what you want, it's because you value something more. And it's a lot of times like question, like your performance coach, like I am effectively, like we ask the question, sort of goal setting, what's got you turned on? What do you want? What drives you? So the better question is what's got you turned off? Because a lot of times, like people go, I have a true desire to be wealthy. Okay, that's awesome. What's got you turned off? Risk. What are you more turned off by risk than you are turned on by wealth creation? If your highest value is to avoid risk, then you're never going to create wealth, no matter how much you think you desire that. You're basically praying two prayers that are just negate each other. Give me wealth, but don't give me risk. Give me a marriage, but give me self-righteousness. It's like the things cannot exist in the same universe. It's like, and when you pray a prayer saying, hey, give me wealth, but give me no risk, then the only thing the universe can do is say, which do you value? I can't give you both. Which do you value more? I value not exposing myself to risk. Okay, no risk in your life, but no wealth either. And it's this conflict of values that we have to resolve. And do you want to be right or do you want to be rich? Do you want to be right or do you want to be married? I want both. I want to be right and I want to be married. You can have anything you want, but you can't have everything you want. What do you value more? I value being right more. Okay, bye-bye, wife. Got to go. I value no risk. Okay, risk-free life. Bye-bye. Life of exceptional living.
So many entrepreneurs suffer from divorces. This is such an unfortunate thing. And the numbers, the statistics are very high. Almost always it comes from a partner feeling neglected over a long period of time because the other person was business. You have an incredibly popular topic that you talk about, which is divorce proofing your relationship by embracing selfishness. How do you define healthy selfishness in relationships?
It's if you go, Cody, can you give me $100? It doesn't matter how bad I want to give it to you, how much my heart desires. If I don't have $100, I can't give it to you. And I can say, I appreciate you, Mark. I love you, Mark. I want to help you, Mark. But it's like, what does it matter? You don't get the $100 from me. And it's you can't give what you don't have. And effectively, what's going on is most marriages are two starving people coming together saying, let's share our food, is what's going on. And the reality is, you think you're going to get some food from the other person because you're starving. But the reality is, they're going to take what little food you've got. And that's going to create resentment. And the reason that you're in the business or you're in the distraction, whatever it is, it's because there's something missing inside of you. Workaholism is an addiction. Excessive work is an addiction. A lack of work-life balance is an addiction. And it's exactly the same as alcohol or porn or drugs or anything like that. It's exactly the same. And what the person is trying to achieve from work in this particular instance is identity. It's self-worth. If I don't make $1 million, if I don't have $1 million a year business, I don't have any identity. I don't have any self-worth. Or you make $1 million, you make $10 million, and then you have to keep it, right? So finally, I have some identity. But if I lose that $10 million business, I lose my identity, then I lose myself. And it's the person is chasing identity. They're chasing self-worth. They're chasing meaning is what they're chasing. And while you're chasing that, you couldn't give a damn about what's going on in your marriage, to be frank. You have nothing to give to that marriage, nothing to give. Versus going, okay, I'm going to find my identity in a more healthy way. It's like my identity is not tied to how much money I make. My identity is not tied to how many employees I have. My identity is not tied to income. And effectively, when that identity is developed within yourself, now it's instead of going, hey, we're two starving people coming together saying, let's share our food. It's, hey, I'll bring the wine and cheese. You bring the grapes and the coffee. And how about we get together and we have a feast? And that's what I mean by selfishness. It's a tongue-in-cheek thing, but it's not. It's, hey, how about you go out and you get full? How about you go out and you find some abundance? And how about I go out and I'll find abundance? And when we come together, we'll have a feast. Versus going, I'm starving and I've got no identity, and what little identity I've got, I'm gonna take what little identity you've got and make it mine. I'm just gonna be a parasitic force in your life.
So what would that mean, like in a real context, in a regular entrepreneur relationship? What would that, if I'm listening to it and I'm having some relationship troubles, right? And I want something practical to be able to start implementing, what would be an example of a healthy selfishness that I could start practicing today?
Kindness. Again, let's clarify here. What we're talking about, Mark, is enlightened self-interest. This is like jujitsu, right? It's like, how does a small opponent defeat a much bigger opponent? They use the weight, they use momentum. And it's understanding a key concept, really, that I think Ziglar said it was, if I help enough people get what they want, I can have anything I want. And it's okay, that's what a beautiful thing. It's if I want anything that I want, right? Anything end result is I want anything that I want. How do I get that? I help enough people get what they want. If I help you get what you want, I'm closer to getting what I want. If it's listeners listening to this that I can help through the words and philosophies that we're sharing here, if it helps them get what they want, I'm closer to getting what I want. Am I doing this purely because I'm benevolent and selfless? No, not at all. But it's enlightened self-interest. I'm on this call with you today for my own interest. But by understanding my own interest can only be gratified and satisfied in the service of others, then my selfishness becomes enlightened. It becomes enlightened self-interest. And the kinder I am to you, Mark, the more you're going to give back. The more giving I am to you, the more I'm going to give back. And it's like a simple step. Look, I've worked with thousands of people at this point. And when women especially, I work mostly with men, but not exclusively. I talk to the wife and I say, what do you want? And she goes, I just want him to be a little bit kinder. That's all. I just like him to be that's all it would take. It's just a little bit of kindness. And that's by you working on that and becoming kinder, you're going to get more from everything and everybody in life. It's a very selfish thing to do while at the same time being very benevolent, if that makes sense, Mark.
Makes sense. Let's talk about the other side of the coin. We've been talking about broken relationships and how to mend it, broken relationships and how to identify it. Do you ever have people who come to you and they think that their relationship is broken, but when you start talking to them, we realize it's something that they just believe and that it's not broken and the issue lies somewhere else?
The issue is always internal. It's quite difficult for people to hear you're broken. Is the mirror never lies. The mirror never lies. Churchgoers don't hang out with crackheads. Drunks don't hang out with sober people. Look around. And my wife said it the other day, we were having some disagreements. She goes, I never have these problems with my friends. No, of course not, because the mirror never lies. You've attracted people that agree with you. You've attracted what you are. And ultimately, look, the key truth of people don't understand the purpose of marriage. They don't understand what it's there for. It's there to perfect and refine you. Nobody can irritate me like my wife. Nobody can upset me like my wife, and vice versa. I would go as far to say nobody on this planet can upset me like her. But let's put that another way. Nobody can reach me like she does. Nobody can touch me like she does. Nobody has the emotional impact on me that she does. Reach, touch, emotional impact. Let's reframe that. Influence. Nobody has the influence on me that my wife has. And my wife is in my life to highlight my shortcomings. And what it is, we've all got these traumas and these wounds. If you're a human being, you're traumatized. People go, it's my trauma. We're all traumatized. If you got parents, they traumatized you. And what it is, it's like we've got a thorn in our arm. We've got an open wound in our arm. And your wife is the only person that can touch that. And every time she touches it, it causes pain. And instead of recognizing that there's a wound that she's highlighting that needs to be fixed, worked on, you get angry at her and go, don't touch it, don't touch it. The smarter thing to do would be just pull the thorn out and let the wound heal. And it's the question to ask when your wife or your husband or your partner irritates you or upsets you, you've got to ask the question, why am I upset right now? What would I have to believe to be upset? She's highlighting or he's highlighting what needs to happen in you to become whole, that they've been brought into your life to complete you, to make you whole, to heal you. But healing is painful, right? Change is painful. That's why people don't do it. And then instead of going, thank you for pointing out that I have an open wound and I'm going to heal that, we get angry at the person for touching the wound. And when we can reframe that and go, when my wife upsets me or my partner upsets me, they're not attacking me. They're simply highlighting something that needs to change within me for me to reach my peak performance, for me to reach my peak performance. That's if there's an element of laziness inside of me, is that holding me back from my peak performance? Of course it is. But if my wife goes, Cody, like, you sleep till 9 o'clock every morning. There's an element, is that late? And you go, how dare you tell me I'm lazy? How dare you? Do you know what I do all day? Do you know the effort that I put in for this family? Do you know the sacrifice that I make? How dare you call me lazy? But the better question, is there any truth in what she just said? It's 9 o'clock and I'm still in bed. Maybe what she has just done is highlighted a stumbling block for me to reach my full potential. And instead of saying, thank you, wife, for the loving and caring act of helping me reach my full potential, we attack her. We become defensive. And all you do in that situation is go, okay, I would rather be right than reach my full potential. Every upset within a marriage is an opportunity for you to move closer to your full potential. I'll give you a quick example. My wife said the other day, I did some stuff and she goes, is that the man that's going to command the stage that you've told me you want to be on? It's like, how dare you? And then it's, yeah, but no, if I do what I just did on a stage in front of 10,000 people, that's my career over. That's my career over. And her saying, is that the man that's going to reach the destiny that you're telling me you want? She's highlighting something that needs to be worked on. My initial response is to go, how dare you? But the appropriate response is to go, thank you.
You have helped over 5,000 couples, 7 countries, featured in major news outlets like Fox News. Having done all of this, having spoken to so many people and helped and changed countless lives, do you think this is where most conventional relationship advice fails? That it's not focused on personal development and the responsibility each partner has to help each other work towards their individual peak performance and peak performance as a couple?
Absolutely. Look, like when I talk to people to start with, the problem is like, and this really upsets people, trigger alert, right? Trigger warning. People go, my wife's this and my wife's that. And she's like, all right, let's look at the real issue here. The real issue is you're a man of no integrity. How dare you tell me I'm not mad? Look, let's look at the marriage promise. You promised to love this woman unconditionally, irrespective of what comes back, for better or for worse, till death do you part. That's a pretty all-encompassing lifelong contract. It's you are promising to show up with a certain level of behavior towards this woman, regardless of what. It's a one-way unconditional promise, covenant of how you behave towards her, irrespective of what comes back. I don't care what she's done. It doesn't matter. Read the contract, for better or for worse. Just because you didn't ever conceive that you might actually go to the worst part of the relationship, irrelevant. You signed the contract, my friend. And now you're trying to weasel out of this contract. You're trying to weasel out of this deal by blaming her. Let's start there. I'm like, you're saying your wife won't follow you. You're saying your wife doesn't respect your leadership. Maybe it's because you're a man that has no integrity. Maybe because you're a covenant breaker. Maybe it's because you've told her lies, put those lies in writing, and now you're trying to weasel out of that contract. Is that her problem or is that your problem? And Jesus said it very beautifully, man. I don't care what your religious belief is. It's like the story holds true. The woman caught in adultery, that they said, we're going to stone her. And Jesus said, fine, stone her. But let he who is without sin throw the first stone. Let he who is without fault throw the first stone. And that's what is going on. Like when most couples come to me, that's what's going on. They're saying, I want to stone my husband or I want to stone my wife. Okay, we'll get to the stoning later on. But before we get there, are you without fault? Are you without sin? Are you without problems? Are you without blame? No. So why are we focused on your husband or your wife when there's elements that you can improve yourself? It's like there's things you need to work on. There's things that you need to do. So why are you pointing out to him or her that they need to change when the reality is you need to change? When you have changed and achieved perfection, then we'll stone your partner. You can throw the first stone at that point. And that's the way it is. That's personal development. It's taking full responsibility. The day you transition from a child to adult is the day you take full responsibility for your life. Up until that point, you're still a child.
So many couples, they've been together for a very long time. Sometimes they're just like this from the beginning. They confuse love with codependence.
Addiction, yeah.
How do you develop emotional independence without creating distance in a relationship?
It's understanding, firstly, it's about you. Like you are responsible for your behavior. You're not responsible for your wife's behavior. You're not responsible for anyone else. I'm not responsible for your behavior. If you start like going off and swearing and cussing and doing all kinds of bad stuff, I'm not responsible for that. Or you start calling me names or insulting me, I'm not responsible for that. I'm responsible for how I respond to it. And when we look at that, look at the word responsible. People go, how am I responsible for what? Let's look at the word responsible. Responsible. You are responsible, meaning you are able to respond. Like it doesn't matter you behave. It doesn't matter what happens in my life. It doesn't matter what happens to me. I have the ability to respond to that as I choose. And I can choose. And again, let's put this into the context of peak performance. We can put it into the context of the marriage as well. Like it's not what happens to me that is going to determine my level of performance. It's how I respond to what happens to me. It's how I respond to it. If something bad happens to me, I am able to respond, meaning I am responsible. Someone goes, if I get hit by a car on the way out of here and for demonstration purposes only, I get paralyzed from the waist down from a drunk driver, I'm responsible for that? No. I'm not saying you caused it. I'm saying you are able to respond to what's happened. I am able to respond, meaning you are response-able. And most people, they go into the marriage going, I'm response unable. They go into the business going, I'm response unable. I'm unable to choose my response to this. And the truth is, no, you are response able. You just, maybe you abdicated that role, but you are response able. And how you respond is going to determine the results that you get. Give any business scenario, Mark, and I'm sure you can give a response to that scenario that will result in peak performance. You can also give a response to that scenario that will result in very minimal or negative performance, right? It's not the event that's causing the problem. It's the response that you choose to make to that event. You are response able. And that's like whenever working with a couple, this is the number one thing, right? They go, she's done this and she's had an affair, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, all right. Maybe she is Satan. Maybe that's right. I don't know. But you are able to respond to what's happened. And vice versa, you are able to respond to what's happened. You can choose your response. And to bring it back to the questions, the promise made in marriage is to love that person. We got to get it. How do you do? The word love in Western society has been so degraded that it has no meaning. I love football. I love my wife. I love my children. I love chocolate. So you feel the same way about chocolate as you feel about your children? Is that what you're telling me? No, of course not. So the word love has no meaning. It's been so misused that it has no meaning. So when you say, I promise to love my spouse forever, what does that mean? We have to have a working definition. And I choose love is patient, love is kind, love is slow to anger, love is quick to forgiveness, love holds no memories of wrongdoings. It's which of those is a feeling? Which of those? Love is patient. Is that a feeling or is that a response? Love is kind. Is that a feeling or is that a response? Love is slow to anger. Is that a feeling or is that a response? Loving somebody is a response. Growing your business is a response. It's a response to circumstance. Fighting a battle is a response. It's a response to the unfolding battleground in front of you. If you want to be a peak performer in any aspect of life, you've got to go, I am response able. I accept that. Step one, I am response able. Now I understand that I'm able to respond, choose my response. What is the most empowering response? What is the most beneficial response that is going to lead me to that peak performance? Or you can choose a disempowering response, which would be I'm a victim. This is happening to me, which it's like, this to me is heaven or hell. Heaven is the ability to take full responsibility for everything in your life. Hell is you just flag up a flagpole. It depends how you feel today, depends on how the wind blows. And when you can bring this philosophy to the relationship and go, I'm going to choose how I respond to my partner. I'm going to choose how I show up. I'm going to choose who the man I'm going to be, or I'm going to choose the woman. I'm able to respond to every situation, and I'm going to choose to shape my character. I'm going to choose to shape my identity. I'm going to choose to shape my self-worth. That's when, who cares about the problems? How many businesses have you coached, Mark, that doesn't have a problem in it? The key is not to wish winter never happens. That's ignorant. Winter is coming. Winter's coming in your business. Winter's coming in your health. Winter's coming in your relationships. Winter's coming. And to wish it away and go, I wish it never happened, that's just ignorant because it's coming. The solution is to get good at handling winter. When winter arrives, how do I respond to it in a way that prepares me for the sowing in the spring? Because what comes after every winter, Mark? Opportunity. After every winter comes spring. Another word for spring is opportunity. And it's, what are you doing in that winter? Are you sat in the corner dribbling all over yourself, feeling sorry for yourself? Or are you preparing yourself for the opportunity ahead? Because what you do this winter, brother, will determine what your next winter is like. If you're sat here feeling sorry for yourself, if you've decided that your response unable, I can tell you what your next winter is going to be like. It's going to be sparse. It's going to be difficult. It's going to be cold. And this is the key, right? It's not hard to be positive in summer. It's not hard to feel good in summer. It's not hard to feel on top of the world. It's like, that is not where character is formed. That's not where true grit is formed. Personality is formed. Personality is formed in winter. And if you despise the winter, if you curse the winter, you're cursing all you've got. And again, bring it back to the relationship side, right? We're in a winter right now. Good. If you curse that, you're cursing the tools of growth. If you curse that, you're cursing the tools of character. That's what you're doing. You're sowing seeds. The seeds that you're going to sow this spring are going to be seeds of ignorance versus seeds of prosperity, seeds of abundance.
You've written 3 bestseller books. You are a very successful relationship coach.
Thank you.
On top of that, but all of that just means you're an entrepreneur.
Of course, yeah.
When people are looking at you, looking at Cody, looking at how well spoken he is and how he has all these signature methodologies and how successful he is, for an aspiring entrepreneur listening to this podcast, they might be wondering there's something wrong with them because everybody I listen to on the podcast has it figured out. I don't have it figured out. Talk about your entrepreneurial journey. Talk about some of your struggles, if you had any of them, and how did you go through them? How did you overcome them?
Okay. First off, like, every master was once a disaster. The reason I know this stuff is because there was enough pain for me to study it. I went through experience and said never again. A good example is I was 35 years old and I'd been on the entrepreneurial journey for some time. And of course, I was into affirmations. I'm rich, I'm healthy, I'm successful, blah, blah, blah. All nonsense, all rubbish. I was actually on welfare. And I lived about 70 miles from my parents at that time. And I went to see my parents one Sunday afternoon. And as I was leaving, my mother stopped me and handed me $20 and said, here you go, Cody, here's $20. Because I don't want to not see you again for another month because you can't afford the gas to get back here. The tragic part of this story is I took the money from her and put it in my pocket because she was absolutely right. She would not see her son again for another month because I couldn't even, at 35 years of age, I could not even afford the gas money to see my parents. It was about an hour and 20-minute drive home. And the only thing I could say on that drive home was disgusting. That is disgusting. You're telling everybody you're successful. You're telling everybody you're wealthy. You're telling yourself this stuff. At 35 years old, you should be taking care of your parents, not the other way around. You failed. That's disgusting. That behavior is disgusting. And I remember the exact moment I left the M40 and went round the roundabout to get on the A4 to go to my home. And I said, this, not another day, not another hour, not another minute. This stops here, today, right now. I'm like, your job until this problem is solved is to solve this problem. And I've got this cognitive dissonance going on. It's like on one side of the coin, I'm telling people I'm affirming, I'm a successful entrepreneur, successful, nonsense, rubbish. On the other side, I'm taking welfare from the government. I'm getting housing benefit. I'm getting all kinds of government benefits. I went down to the government benefit office the next morning. That was Sunday. Monday morning, I went to the office and I said, cancel all my benefits. I no longer identify as a welfare recipient. I will be homeless before I ever identify as a welfare recipient ever again, because out of your identity comes your reality. And they said, sir, if you cancel these benefits voluntarily, you can never get them back. If you cancel them, you can never get them back. I said, where do I sign? And they pushed a piece of paper in front of me and I signed those benefits away. Now, I needed those benefits. My rent was dependent on those benefits. But Sun Tzu says it in The Art of War, if you must fight on death ground. Or another way to say it, burn your bridges. Don't give yourself a way out. I was not giving myself a way out. I'm like, I will die on this hill. I will die on this hill. I would rather die on this hill than be a welfare recipient. That's how deluded I'd become in my mind. Let's fast forward just a little bit. Like I made the previous 12 months, I made $9,700. I was fundamentally a guitar teacher. And many times, many days, I would go and I would do 2 or 3 lessons. And then on the way home, I'd have the choice between putting $10 or $15 of gas in my car so I could do my lessons tomorrow, or buying food. And I'd put $10 worth of gas in the car, and then I'd go to the out-of-date section in the supermarket and buy all of the out-of-date food. That's how I lived. $9,700 I made that year. The following 12 months, I made $187,000. 3 years later, I had my first $1 million year. So from literally nothing to almost 200,000, 12 months, from 200,000 to over $1 million, 3 years. That's a pretty good deal, man. Like, how many people listen to this will go, if you can add a zero or 2 zeros to your income next year and then another zero within 3 years, is that a good deal? I'll take it. But the point of that story is you've got to stop kidding yourself. Here's the problem with affirmations. A lot of, like, the high performance community, we use affirmations, but like, we don't use them properly. I was affirming the wrongs. I was affirming nonsense. I am wealthy. I'm healthy. I wasn't in good health. I wasn't wealthy. I had massive value to the world. I had nothing to the world. I take welfare. I'm a parasite. I had no value to the world. And if you take one thing from this interview, take this, is turn those affirmations around. Affirm, I will not rest until I'm wealthy. I will not rest until I'm healthy. I will not rest until. Make your morning routine, instead of going, I'm healthy, I'm wealthy, I'm a contributor. Make your morning routine, I will not rest until I'm healthy. I will not rest until I'm wealthy. And that's never stopped for me. So I've never stopped that journey. That was really a turning point in my life. And just to conclude that story, 3 years later, I'm in Australia now. That was in England. I bought my parents 2 cabin class tickets to go from England to, and I felt like that was the circle, the Hakuna Matata. That was the circle of life completed. I took $20 from them to... The completion of that story was, here's your $20 back with interest. Here's 2 cabin class tickets. First class is not good enough for you. It's like you're getting your own cabin. Here's your $20 back with interest.
So if I'm listening to this, I'm motivated, right? I'm thinking Cody was struggling so many years as an entrepreneur. He tells himself that the story of how he was saying something or else living a different life. And I want to know, what were some of the first steps he took when he made that decision to be different? Because I want to apply that in my life. What are the steps you took?
Step number 1 is, it's going to be different. If you want something different, do something different. Do anything. I removed the veil of self-delusion. I'd become delusional. I'd literally gone insane. And the truth is, you've got to be honest with yourself. And whether it's marriage or whether it's business, people go, look, in business, the truth is, you're rewarded for value. If you want to make more money, you have to deliver more value. If you're not delivering value, if you're not making money, it's because you're not delivering value. You may have value to offer, but that you don't get rewarded for potential. You get rewarded for actualization. You get rewarded for actualized value in the marketplace. And a lot of people will go, they're delusional. They go, I'm delivering a lot of value, Cody, but the money's not coming in. No, you're not. That's saying I'm pouring water in the cup, but the cup's not getting full. These two things cannot live together. You've got to be honest. If you're not making the money that you want to make right now, it's because you're not delivering value to the marketplace.
What did that mean for you, though? Like you said, you removed the veil of delusion, right? At the time, you were a music teacher, a guitar teacher who was trading time for money, right? And when you removed the delusion and you wanted created value, what did that actually mean?
For one, it's dealing with reality. I viewed myself as an entrepreneur, and it's like a job was the worst thing in the world for me. That was like a prison sentence. And but the truth was, like, that is what was required. I had to be honest with myself, and I'm going, right, you've just canceled your welfare check, Cody, and you can't live off your teaching. You got to do something. You have to get a job. And it's like, a lot of times, like, I've worked with many entrepreneurs that are failing, and they go, what's your advice? Get a job. Put the business to the side. Make your fortune part-time, work full-time. Like, it requires investment to grow a business. It requires capital. How can you grow a business when you don't have any capital? Go get a job, create capital. And that was the first thing. I'm like, the truth is, I'm trying to create a business, but I have no capital. Where can I get capital from? You're going to have to get a job. I don't really want to do that. The greater of two values will win out. Do you want capital, or do you want to not work? I want capital. Then I show up at the workplace.
I love that. I love the logic and the truthfulness behind it, because there are so many people who will say the opposite. They will continue to tell you to grind it out. And I'm the exact same way as you are, which is that at some point you need to understand that you have no money and you are broke. And it's not possible for you to start and run a business when you are broke. And the only way to fix it is to get a job.
Capital. You need capital. You can't have a business without capital, no.
100%. Okay, so you got a job. Now you have some money coming in. What were the next steps towards building this business?
It was to become masterful. Like, if you want to get paid the best, you got to be the best. That you mentioned, I thank you very much for the nice compliment saying I'm articulate and stuff like that. You have to be that. Like, how can I communicate that I have ideas that can help you if I don't have the words to do that? I can have all the value in the world to offer, but if I If I can't communicate that to you, how do you know? Why would you give me anything to work with me when I can't articulate the benefit and the value and the outcome and the steps and the philosophies and the processes? I have to get the ideas from my head into your head, and words are what does that. And it's like fact number two is step number one is like you can't build a business without capital. Step number two is if you want to get paid the best, you have to be the best. No two ways about it. Communication is a skill that every successful entrepreneur has to have. You may hate Donald Trump, but you can't deny he's a great communicator, maybe the best communicator in the world. Don't care what your opinion of him is. We're not getting into that. It's like the man's a masterful communicator. And it's again, let's look at outcome and results, not like personal biases and stuff like that. He has reached the pinnacle in three of the most competitive industries in the world. He's reached the pinnacle in the business world. He's reached the pinnacle in the entertainment world, and he's reached the pinnacle in the political world. He has reached the pinnacle in all three worlds. And you can criticize him, say the man's an idiot. Okay, if you think somebody that's conquered three of the biggest mountains in the world is an idiot, what are you? What are you? How many of those mountains have you even got to the foothills? If he's an idiot for conquering them, what are you? That's the truth. And it's one of the key philosophies that we have to adopt if we're going to reach peak performance is we've got to change through the word through to from. And it's like the 4 years with Trump, a lot of people go, I've got to get through this. I've got to get through these 4 years. Or I've got to get through these 4 years with Biden. What a terrible attitude, man. It's like, how about, because those 4 years are going to go by. He was president. If he's elected again, I don't care if you like him or not. It's like you got 4 years. And if you just go, I've just got to get through these next 4 years, what a waste of a life. How about we change that to I've got to get something from these next 4 years? Most people wake up in the morning, and this was where I was, right? I'd wake up in the morning and go, I've got to get through this day. No, brother, what a waste of a day. You don't have enough days to do that. No, you've got to get something from this day. If every morning you wake up and I've got to get something from this day. I've got to be better than I was when this day started. I've got to have more than I've got to become more than I was when I started this day. I can't finish this day where I started it. And I'm telling you, if every single morning you wake up and you go, I've got to get something from this day, see where you are in a year. If you wake up and you go, every single day you wake up, you go, I've got to just get through this day, see where you are in a year. Can we extrapolate? Like, we're intelligent people. Can we imagine where that's going? This is not rocket science. It's simple shifts in philosophy. And I looked at a job as the worst thing in the world. But honestly, like, the reason my business, I had a life coaching marriage business, and it was failing because I didn't have the business skills and the marketing skills to make that work. The job that I got was in a marketing agency, and I learned the skills in that market agency to later on produce umpteen dozen $1 million in revenue. I don't even know how many, but it's many millions of dollars my businesses have produced from then till now. And it's what was viewed as the worst cursing became the greatest benefit. I learned the skills that I was missing. And it's, again, like I could have approached that I could have got the job like with a crappy attitude and gone, I just need to get through this. I just need to raise some capital to grow my business. Okay, you're going to be in this job anyway. So why not just add insult to injury? Why not just show up to something you don't want to do with a crappy attitude and get nothing out of it? But you're going to be there anyway. So why not get something out of it? And I got there and I said, I'm going to be the best. I'm going to be the best employee this agency has got. I'm going to be the best at this skill. I'm going to be the best at that skill. And again, tying that back in, if you want to get paid the best, you got to be the best. If you want the best relationship, you got to be the best spouse. If you want the best relationship with if you want the best, you got to be the best. And that just comes down to do the work. Put in the time. There's no free meals in this life. There's no free rides.
Having worked for that marketing agency, having generated multiple millions of dollars because of the skill sets you acquired, if you had to tell budding entrepreneurs listening to this who are looking to grow their business, the top 3 lessons you learned from that marketing company, what are they?
From the marketing company?
Running your own business in terms of the marketing.
So what I learned was I'm worth more than I think I am. That was the number one lesson. That marketing agency was charging $700 an hour for the work that I was doing, and they were paying me $30. And it's here I am thinking I'm worth $30 an hour or $40 an hour, going telling people, because I was getting $20 an hour teaching guitar. Now I'm getting 30. It's whoa, moving up. And I look at it and I go, this agency is charging $700 an hour for the work that I'm doing. They're not touching it. They're not, after initial period when they trusted me, like I was doing all that work and I'm like, they're charging $700 an hour. I'm worth at least month after month. I see the clients renew month after month. I'm like, I've massively undervalued myself in the marketplace, massively undervalued myself. That was the big thing. And that was the start of the entrepreneurial journey to some extent, or the successful entrepreneurial journey was like, why can't I do this myself? I could see that other people valued the work that I was doing. And it's that work is me. I'm worth at least $700 an hour. That was the first one. Is you're undervaluing yourself. What you're getting paid is what you think you're worth. And it's like, to be honest with you, if you want it, people go, I'm definitely worth more than that. I'm getting, no, you're not. That again, that's called delusion. That's called delusion. If you want to know the root, Look at the fruit. That's like saying my root is orange tree, but I'm producing lemons. You're deluded. No, you're not. No, you're a lemon tree. Your roots are lemons. The second lesson was act in spite of fear. I was terrified, and I wouldn't have done this unless I put myself on death ground. Do it or die. I showed up at that agency, and the night before, here's what I did. I'll tell you the story. I Googled, I'm like, okay, this is Monday now. So I'm like, I've got to get a job. I've just canceled my welfare. I Googled top jobs of 2009 or something like that, whatever it was, top 10 paying jobs. And I looked at a bunch of lists, and like search engine optimization was on all the lists. So I'm like, all right, that's it. So I go on Craigslist and Gumtree and other job sites, and I find 4 or 5 agencies, marketing agencies within the local community that hire SEO people. Don't know a damn thing about SEO at this point. I go to Barnes and Noble bookstore, buy SEO for Dummies. I've got an interview the next morning, and I think, well, you know what? They don't know anything, or they don't know. I buy SEO for Dummies, read it the night before, show up, and boom, $30,000 a year job, right? So I've gone from $10,000 to $30,000 day one. Day one, I've tripled my income. For what? A little bit of ingenuity, overcoming fear. I show up day one of that job. Now I've got to deliver, right? I was terrified, man. Like I almost quit day one. Like I was so scared, but I'm on death ground. Like I've got to fight this battle. I've got no choice. I'm on death ground. Sun Tzu was right. If you must fight, put your troops on death ground. And I thought, okay, what's my strategy? What's my strategy? How am I going to get through this? And I went in there and they put me in the office and I said, can I sit in the corner, please? I'm a very introspective, very private person. And I need a spot in the corner or somewhere else. I just can't work with distractions. The reason was I needed my screen turned away from the office because they'd ask me a question. They say, Cody, we need to know, got a client asking about this. I said, yeah, just let me finish this email. I'm like, Google, your best friend. You got ChatGPT now, your best friend, right? How do I do blah, 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 blah. I'm like, okay, what's your question? And I'd have the answer. I positioned myself in the corner with my screen turned away from the office so I could Google the answers. But here's the reality, right? You grow into the role. If you want to become a successful entrepreneur, you got to act like a successful entrepreneur. If you want to become a successful, you've got to act like the person before you become the person. You can't go, what a lot of people do is it's like they're sitting in front of a fire and they say, I'll put wood in you. Give me some heat and I'll put wood in you. It's no, you put wood in and I'll give you heat. It's like investing. I had a mentor tell me one time, it's not, why haven't you invested, Cody? When I get some money, I'll invest. It's no, when you invest, you'll get some money. It's not the amount that you put in, it's the habit that you're creating. It's the identity that you're creating. When you start, if you've got $1 spare a week and you invest that dollar, it's like, you need to do that. The attitude was, when I get some money, I'll invest. You're 35 years old, Cody. How's that philosophy worked out for you? It hasn't. So do you want to be right or do you want to be rich? I want to be rich. Okay, listen to me. It's not about how much you invest. It's about the skill that you're learning and the identity that you're creating. When you put wood in the fire, it will give you heat. Right now, you're telling me that you're willing to put wood in the fire only after it produces heat. How's that going to work? It isn't. And then the third step really is being open to expansion. It's like you said, like I've done many things. Like I'm a relationship coach. I'd say I'm an entrepreneur. People go, well, how can you, what are you, a relationship coach or not? It's no, life is not that linear. To me, there are 4 main pillars of life. There's relationship, there's finances, there's health, and there's spirituality. And if any one of those areas is broken, you're broken. And you can, like we talked earlier on, Mark, you can be the most successful businessman in the world, but if your marriage is broken and your relationship with the kids is broken, it doesn't matter, man. It's for nothing. Or you can have a phenomenal relationship with your wife or husband, but people go, money won't make you happy. I'm like, well, a welfare Christmas? What a stupid statement. What a stupid statement. Money won't make you happy. Maybe try it before knocking it, is what I would say, because I'm going to disagree with you. Money will not make you happy, but it will eliminate many of the things that prevent happiness. And if your money is not working, you're not happy. I'm telling you. There's some Zen people out there that can find happiness through I haven't met them. And with your health.
Those of us who have gone through poverty, real poverty, because I have gone through it and you have gone through it, we don't romanticize poverty anymore.
No, people go, money won't make you happy. Okay, let's reframe that statement. Poverty will make you happy. How absurd is that? I'm like, how deluded is that thinking? I'm like, when you say money won't make you happy, you're effectively saying poverty will make you happy. And do you want to be happy? So you've now created a belief system where you believe that the only way you can get what you want is to be poor. I'm going to put my psychic hat on right now, and I'm going to guess within $100 or $2, a couple of $100, where your bank account is. You're poor. You're broke. And it's not, again, let's relate this back to marriages. Is that person broke or are they broken? It's your mind, it's your philosophy that's broken. It's your attitude that's broken. It's your approach to success that's broken. Your brokenness is only a manifestation of your internal thermostat. It's only the fact you're broke is just a representation of your psychology and philosophy. If we changed your philosophy, psychology and philosophy, would we change your outcome? What about if we make you abundant? What about if we make you powerful? What about if we make you prosperous? The root then is power, prosperity, influence. reach, what kind of fruit do you think that tree is going to produce? And it's those are the things. Like, my money was broken. That's why I understand this stuff. I'm like, I got to fix it. My relationships were broken. That's why I understand this stuff. My health was broken. You and I had a pre-interview. We had a conversation. You're the same, right? It's like we talked about health. I'm like, I got this little thing going on and I can lose the weight, but I'm interested. I could be a health coach. I could be a fitness coach. And then I've mentioned spirituality, like my spiritual beliefs. I don't care what you believe, but believe something. Just believe something. Adopt a belief system that you can believe in and live it out. I'm not asking you to believe what's right. I'm just telling you that I've adopted a spiritual philosophy that I believe in and I live out in my life. And that creates, if you don't do that, you're not going to be happy. I don't care if it's whatever you choose, you give it a name. But choose a philosophy to live your life by and live it. Be authentic in your belief. And again, that's about being let's say, a Renaissance man. I want to be a Renaissance man. Like Michelangelo was a sculptor, he was a painter, he was a philosopher, he's probably a businessman, he was probably a cook, probably a chef. That's what I want to be. I want to be a Renaissance man. I want to be a man that's skilled in relationships. I want to be a man that's skilled in money and finance and business. I want to be a man that can talk articulate about what I believe and why I believe it. I don't expect you to follow my beliefs, but I can explain every one of them to you. And that's what I challenge you with. I don't really care what you believe, but know what you believe. Reason it through. Don't just randomly accept a belief system. Think it through. Why do I believe this? And if you truly believe it, live it out. If you don't, rework it. And health. I want to be a man that is healthy, vibrant, physically attractive. I want to be articulate. And any one of these areas, like, I could now teach. Any one of these areas I could go into. And we tend to get pigeonholed, right? It's like we talked about it at the beginning. You said you should throw that on the interview. And here it is. It's like labels belong on tin cans, not people. I don't like being called a relationship coach because it pisses me. And then when I start talking about money or health or spirituality, they go, well, aren't you that guy that was on the podcast talking about relationships? Yeah, that's me. So you just do whatever you do to make money. No, this is why I don't like to be called a relationship coach, because it puts a label on the can and then it eliminates you from experiencing what I've got to offer. I've got more to offer than relationships. You've got more to offer than performance and business and money. But when we start labeling ourselves and going, I'm a relationship coach, you get pigeonholed. Call yourself a Renaissance man or a Renaissance woman. And understand that life is not, it's comprised of many different disciplines. And to have a successful life, you have to master all of them. You have to master all of them.
And that's what true peak performance is all about, is the mastery of the things that matter in life. Cody, in a world where so many people are touting so many things that did sound wonderful when you hear them, but it's almost impossible to use and it's impractical. You are a breath of fresh air because you say it how it is. And the things you talk about not only makes one think, but also we can extrapolate and project and realize that if we did apply these principles in our personal life and professional life, we would go far. So hats off to you. I think the work that you're doing is of so much value because you could have stopped after building successful businesses for yourself, but you didn't. You took the knowledge you acquired, the lessons you've learned, and now are out there teaching others how to do it. And that just goes to show the kind of person you are. Thank you so much for being on the show. Any last words for audience members?
Yeah, what you bring up, practicality. Let me just give you one last philosophy that if you take this away, that you got your money's worth today. Casualness produces casualties. Don't be casual. If you're casual in your diet and your health, it's just a matter of time before there's casualties in your health. If you're casual in your finances, it's just a matter of time before there's casualties in your bank account. If you're casual with your children, just a matter of time before that relationship breaks. Casualness produces casualties. Don't be casual in your approach to life. A casual approach to life will make you a casualty. And if you really want one philosophy that can take you to that peak performance in the fastest way possible, is wake up every morning and go, I'm not going to be casual today. I'm not going to be casual anymore. I'm not going to be casual with my words. I'm not going to be casual with my thoughts. I'm going to be intentional, not casual.
Thank you so much for being on the show.
Thanks for having me, man.
Awesome.